Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, and I'm going to be talking about g.l.o.w Season 3, Episode 5. It's called Freaky Tuesday. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Tim Neal from Patreon, who sponsors the g.l.o.w reviews, so thank you to him. Full spoilers for the episode, of course, as always. This episode is, it's funny, I think I saw an image from this episode and forgotten about it, but when it came up in the episode that they were all going to switch characters, I was like, oh yeah, this was coming. Like, I remember this being something I kind of knew about was going to happen. The episode starts with Tammy, who is dealing with her back pain, and we see this montage of her waking up day after day, stretching, taking pain pills, struggling more and more, always ending with sliding into the ring on that night's show. And she sort of slides in, and it's getting harder and harder for her to get back up every time she slides in the ring. And we hear Bash like announcing her entrance over the montage of her doing this over and over again. Her morning routine of trying to deal with the pain, and of course, she eventually something just. I don't even know what the word to use is here, but just her back just goes, and she's like, "Oh shit!" And that's how we got the title screen. So it's a fun opening because we know this has been a thing. We know it's finally going to come to a head, and that's kind of what leads us to the change up in the show. The change up in the show being that she's like, "Hey," she goes to the Bitties, and she's like, "Hey, can we swap characters?" Because she wants the walker. She wants to have to do less physical stuff, and if she has the walker, it'll be easier for her to move around, and she can play that character. And there's some debates going around about who plays who. I want to play this character, I want to play that character. We should all do this, it's fun. But it's actually Debbie who is the driving spearhead of saying, yeah, no, let's shake it up and have fun. Let's enjoy what we're doing tonight. This is largely inspired, of course, by the offer from Gina Davis's character to extend the g.l.o.w show to the end of the year, which would be an extra 9 months. So yeah, if it's 9 months till the end of the year, then presumably they've been here January, February, March. Which makes sense, actually, because it's towards the end of this period, and Justine's visiting on her spring break. But, and Bash is ready to just say yes, and Debbie has to jump in and be like, no, we have to talk about this. I don't necessarily want to be away from my son for the whole year, and so on and so on. And feeling this pressure here, she wants to shake things up. No, let's do something different. And there's debate about who should play who, and ultimately Debbie says, no, if anyone's going to play Liberty Bell, it should be Ruth. And it's funny because obviously there's been a slow build over the whole show of their friendship kind of reforming after the opening with Ruth sleeping with Mark. And it feels like, between the cheeseburger conversation a couple of episodes ago and then this, it really feels that we're at these points where they are just friends again, and maybe they haven't even realized that they're back to some kind of normalcy. But and that doesn't mean there won't be more conflict, or there won't be times where it comes up again or whatever. But no, and she's like, I want to play Zoya. Debbie wants to play Zoya. She wants to be the evil character for a change. And as she says to Ruth, you're an actor, you want to play different parts. Do this. So they all switch characters. And what's funny is that it's actually the most we have seen of the wrestling show all season. It's been such a background thing this season because they've not been trying to make it better. They've been going through the motions of what they'd already achieved by the end of season 2. Because season 1 was so much about learning the basics. Season 2 was, okay, let's put on a storyline. Let's keep the show going. This season, because it has just been like, let's just phone it in, the wrestling itself has not been interesting. And the funny thing is that the show's aware of that, because there's a great line towards the end when the last match is on, or not the last match, it's not the Battle Royal thing they always do at the end, but the last sort of regular match, and some of the girls who are, they've already dressed for the Battle Royal are watching. I think it's Debbie who says, I can't remember the last time I actually wanted to watch the show. Maybe it wasn't Debbie. Debbie's definitely standing there, but one of them says that. And she's right. Like, the show has been ignoring the actual wrestling part, and I like that it's actually made it part of the plot. That, yeah, it's not been that interesting. There's been nothing to watch because it's the same old thing. But watching them go through these matches and these moments as different characters was very entertaining for everyone but Bash. Bash is the only one who's not happy. Everyone else gets it. I mean, Sam's a little confused at first, but even he gets into it over the course of the show. So let's work through it. So we start off with the tag team match, and it's the old-time biddies, whatever you used to call it. And it's Tammy, and what's her face? Arthie are the old ladies, and they're coming out and they're doing some jokes, and they're actually pretty funny. Tammy cracks a little joke where she's like, you're such a pretty audience, but then she puts on her old woman glasses and goes, well, some of you are pretty. It gets a little laugh. It's good stuff. And then you have Zoya, which is actually Debbie, come out, and Jenny's not Jenny, sorry, but Melrose is playing Fortune Cookie, which is a rough time, and I'm glad they addressed this. I'm glad that Jenny called out what was happening here, because while this was all very entertaining, especially Debbie as Zoya was really funny. Her coming out and cracking jokes at Bash's expense, getting in the ring, doing the Zoya thing, but doing her take on it, so it's a little bit different. Melrose's Fortune Cookie, it was problematic already when they forced Jenny into this role, this Fortune Cookie role, where they want her to be this racist stereotype. It's even worse when a white woman is doing the racist stereotype and is putting on the voice and is doing all the racist lines. And I'm really glad that they cut to Jenny at one point when she's still fixing everyone's costumes, because that's always been Jenny's thing. And she, calls it out. So it's just nice that the show addressed it, and they had Jenny acknowledge it and address it, and it felt like it wasn't going unnoticed. It was like, hey, no, she can't do this. And if they keep shaking it up, maybe this will be something they address. Maybe they'll swap roles again. Maybe they'll do whatever. But because it was that one, and then the other one that was also a little bit uncomfortable in that same way was one of the biddies was playing Arthie's usual character, and that also felt so. Any of the examples where a white character was playing what was previously a racial stereotype, which was already a problem, but was played by someone of that race, it really got uncomfortable in the middle of the show. But it kind of played to the deaf tone kind of attitude that the show's always kind of had, and a lot of the other stuff was genuinely quite funny. Obviously, you had Ruth do the, she's in the crowd, she's dressed in the pigtails with the glasses, with the flannel shirt on, and she's like, no, I can't let you do that. I'm going to fight you. I'm an all-American girl. And she's Liberty Bell, and we get the whole fight. And then of course you have Carmen come out as the welfare queen. And there's even a fun sort of little joke here where she mentions that she's the only one who can really play her and do her moves because she's half black. Because they all look at her kind of funny, and then they all go, wait, what, you're half black? And then, none of them really know about it. And she kind of explains it later on that her mum's black. But so, no, we see all this stuff, and it does feel there's a life in it, and it feels like they're having fun, and it's fun to watch them having fun. A couple of problematic elements aside, even Sam starts to get into it. We just kind of start shrugging and going, well, this is kind of fun. Whereas Bash, over the course of this, just feels like he's losing control, and he's mad that everything's changed. He's mad that they've done something without his say-so, and he's watching this, and he's just losing interest as the night goes on. He's trying to keep it going. And then, the other big thing, of course, that happens is the other tag team match, where you have Jenny as Britannica, which I actually really liked. Her doing the British accent was quite funny. And obviously nowhere near, and not offensive, like the opposite with Melrose doing the fake Asian voice was. But Jenny doing the British voice, and because even like one of the jokes felt like something that Britannica probably always said, we'd never heard before. So her saying something like, I've done all the math, and it looks like you suck, or something to that, or something like that, or you're, it was something to that effect. It was just a silly little joke, but it was really funny. And Vicky the Viking was actually a nun, and she's like saying things like the power of Christ compels you, which was really random and weird, but kind of funny. And you just feel like they were being creative and like goofing around and be like, oh, let's just try and do something different for a change. And of course, that led to Sheila the She-Wolf, who was no longer a wolf. And, because there's a moment where you go, oh yeah, how does she feel about this? She has one character, and that's been kind of her thing this season, is that to suggest that she not be the wolf has put her in a rough place emotionally. And she rushes off and says she'll be back. And I actually kind of called it she was going to go see Bobby, and Bobby was going to help her in some way. I didn't necessarily expect her to essentially be a similar thing to, because she comes in as Liza Minnelli, and she's got the martini glass or whatever in her hand the whole time, and again, it's really funny. She's cracking jokes based on her character, and it feels like she's finally it ties into the idea of feeling comfortable once she's in a role, and the idea that she trusted Bobby enough to sort of guide her into that. But she has actually found comfort in a different role. She's found enough of herself, and got brave enough to be someone else for a change. And that's kind of, she wants to be an actor. She has to learn to do that, and so that felt like a big step for her. And yeah, so again, all the little jokes in the match and the way they were fighting based on this. Obviously, eventually, Tammy is hurt, and Debbie comes into the dressing room to get her, and she's just leaned over, but she's crying her eyes out in pain, and it feels really bad. And it's one of the things that this show does really well is that it's genuinely pretty funny, but it does have moments where the emotion becomes a bit more real and it becomes a bit more serious, and it can hit those dramatic beats. And I think this is an example of that, where as soon as she walks in and sees Tammy in pain, she's like, oh shit, I should know about this. Don't lie to me about how long you've been in pain. And she's like, it's only 4 shows left. I could do it. I could get out there and do it. But she's got tears in her eyes. She's in absolute agony. And later on, when they're in the dressing room trying to help her, and Cherry's like doing some back treatment or whatever, Debbie feels guilty that she didn't know about this. This is part of her job as a producer. She should know that this was going on and take care of the performers. And you genuinely feel it, and I think you feel a camaraderie amongst the girls that we've not necessarily felt this strongly in a while. And it's a really nice time. It's a really nice time. And they all seem very happy after the show. They're all having a drink and they're very pleased. And this is where we get to the ending, which I think we have to, rewind a little bit and talk about the rest of this Bash stuff, where Bash goes to Sam and says, hey, we have to team up against Debbie and say we want to stay in the show for another 9 months. And Sam's like, I'm not sure I want to. I don't think I want to be in the middle of this fight. And he's like, hey, this is why I keep you around, to back me up and things. And he's like, I thought you kept me around to be a director. And he's like, hey, come on, this is a paid vacation. You're barely doing anything. He tries to throw his weight, essentially, and Sam quite rightly sticks up for himself and says, you can't just pay me to agree with you. I'm not your butler. I'm not your errand boy. This is not what this is. Bash, over the course of the episode, it becomes very clear that, because he has one moment, there's a fake funeral. Let's say a fake funeral. There's a little remembrance because the old guy who owned the hotel and casino passed away. And Gina Davis is in a bad place with this, and she's giving this big speech. And there's a moment where Bash kind of looks at Bobby, and it's a little awkward moment. And it really feels like Bash is lashing out because of his insecurities, and it feels like he's trying to make sure he's in control and in power of everything that he's supposed to be in charge of, to make himself feel better, to make it feel that his life is not spiraling, to make it feel like he is in control of everything around him. And he's a dick to Sam. He's a dick and says, get with the program. You should have my back in this. And he gets, very pissy during the show because the girls have changed things up. And at the end here, he comes in with Gina Davis, and Gina Davis is actually, again, she enjoyed the show. She was watching with Justine, more on Justine in a little bit, but she was watching with Justine, and she had a good time. It cheered her up, and she was miserable when the show started. And she's congratulating them. So you need to shake things up. It's a live performance. That's the magic of it. That's something that's essential for it. And Bash just announces in front of everyone that they're going to stay on for 9 more months. And all the girls didn't know about this. Obviously, Sam and Debbie are the only ones that have heard about this. And Debbie quickly steps in and says, whoa, we haven't had a meeting about this. We haven't talked about this. And Bash is like, no, I talked to you. I talked to Sam. I told you it was happening, and it's happening. I'm in charge. And it's not your name that's on the marquee. It's mine. It's my show. I paid for it. And he, again, he pulls the power card on Debbie. He belittles her in front of everyone. And the reactions from the rest of the group are great. I think it's Jenny over by the ring who her jaw drops when he says that. And I almost thought that the end of this episode for a split second was going to be all the girls walking out on him in solidarity for Debbie, because the way he was treating her. And again, Sam doesn't jump in as much, but he jumps in before Debbie does to say, hey, we've not really had a conversation about this. And it's very awkward for Gina Davis, because Gina Davis is standing there like, oh, maybe we should talk about this in my office. Maybe we should have a private conversation. And Bash just says, nope, it's my call, it's my decision, we're staying for 9 months, and if anyone doesn't like it, they can leave. He pops champagne, and it goes to credits. It's a really abrupt ending. And for the second episode in a row, I mean, obviously we had one scene at the end that was quite sweet last episode, but the scene before that was him in the club declining Bobby. It feels like Bash's insecurities are really causing a lot of drama and conflict this season. And it's really, I didn't expect it to spread to the whole group quite like this, but this scene is very awkward because you feel like you're in a really good place with all these characters. It feels like they've found some kind of, like, I don't know, passion again with each other. And, it's like, okay, this has been a rough few months, but, we're coming to an end. Let's enjoy the last few shows. And, they seem genuinely happy. And then Bash kind of comes in and ruins it. And I have no idea if they end up staying. Look, really, I don't know what happened in real life. I'm excited to find out in the show. And, yeah, we'll see how it goes. And at the same time, though, Debbie at one point goes to speak to Gina Davis, and she wants advice because she doesn't really want to stay away from her son. And Gina Davis actually brings up a very valid point. Like, you wanted to be a producer on this show, but you had no plan, in place if the show became successful. Like, if the show was successful, which there was always a chance it would be, and it wanted to like stick around, and like people wanted it to be there, like you had no plan in place to deal with that. Like, you have to plan ahead. You had to, like, how could you not assume that you might be successful? That's, so this is very defeatist attitude, and she's got a point. And so it's not necessarily that Debbie is completely in the wrong or hasn't made any mistakes, but at the end of the episode, when she's like, no, we should talk about this as producers, Basher shoots her down. So even though Debbie has made some mistakes, she is 100% not the villain in this scene. Bash is the villain in this scene. It'll be interesting to see how we deal with his stuff, and do we get an arc with him this season where he does accept who he is to a point, or at least stops letting it affect how he treats others by the end of the season. I'll be very intrigued to see that. But the scene's very good, and it really hits hard, this final scene. Just some other things we have to mention. Justine is in town. Sam has finished his screenplay and he wants Justine to read it, but Justine says, before he has a chance, that she's also written a screenplay and gives it to him. So he's got a screenplay to read. And later on, he asks Ruth to read it. And Ruth thinks he's asking about his screenplay, and he's like, no, this is not about mine. This is about Justine's. And what I liked about this is I thought for a second Sam was being a complete dick and hadn't read it and wanted her to read it and just tell him what it was like so that he could not have to himself. And I thought that was going to be a really dick move. But then it didn't sound like that though. It sounded like he had read it and he wants a second opinion to make sure that he's not crazy, which to me sounds like it's good. Like, he's read this script and he thinks it's great. And he just wants to make sure that someone else thinks that. Partly because, like, what if he's wrong and it embarrasses her when she shows it to someone else? But also just the idea, what if he's, a little biased because it's his daughter? Maybe he's worried that he's being more lenient on it because he doesn't want to hurt her feelings or something like that. But the impression I got from this scene is that the script is really good. And he just wants to make sure that someone else agrees with that before he, just gives her all the praise. It was fun seeing Justine again, although she does look very different. Again, this is another thing, much like the racist voice. This didn't need to be addressed, but it was nice that it was, and that when it cut to Justine with Sam, it took me a second to really acknowledge that it was Justine because she looks so different. Her hair's very different. But Ruth actually points out later that, no, she looks so grown up, she looks so different. And she does, she genuinely looks like a different person. And it's really just down to them not making her trying to look like a teenager anymore. But she does look genuinely different, so that was pretty cool. So this was a great episode. It may even be the best of the season so far. I think it was really fun. It got back to the wrestling stuff itself and made great entertainment out of it. It had a lot of character stuff going on. It felt like a lot of character beats were coming out. In fact, the one character swap that I didn't mention, I don't think, that I do want to praise is Cherry as Melrose. That was wonderful. I think Cherry as Melrose and Jenny as Britannica were probably my favourites of the swaps. They were really having fun with that. At one point, she even gets Sam to smack her ass in the middle of the ring. She's like, "I've been a bad girl, Sam." It's just really, really funny stuff. And I think not only were the characters having fun with this, I think the actors were having fun doing this. It really feels like almost a meta commentary on this type of work, this type of creativity, this type of show. And a TV show in a lot of ways is kind of like that, where it's not a live show, but in the way that it can go for years, it can become stale unless the status quo gets shaken up, unless things change. Now, obviously, in TV shows, you don't just switch characters, but you develop characters, you do different things with them, and these characters are all feeling like they're doing the same thing night after night. And I think this show is really good at tackling these intricacies, and I think this episode was a shining beacon of that. So, episode 5 of g.l.o.w Season 3 is very, very, very good. And I look forward to the fallout of Bashy's announcement and his power play at the end, where he tells Debbie she can just leave and go back to LA if she wants, but g.l.o.w's staying here. Of course, if all the girls decide to leave together, then he's screwed. So, I don't think he's thought about that 100% yet, but we'll see how it goes. So no, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I think it's very interesting to me that this event happened at the exact middle point of the season. Right at the end of episode 5. I think I'm very curious as to what the rest of the season is, given, because if this had happened at the end of episode 8 or 9, I'd be like, okay, so we've got a bit of epilogue to tie this up and kind of solve the conflict. But we have a whole half season left, so I'm very, very curious about how this plays out. So I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, let me know what you think of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get me on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv, where you can support us for as little as $1 per month, and you get bonuses, some early stuff, and whatever else. Of course, there's higher tiers as well, one of which is the $10 tier, where you can sponsor one TV review series, much like Tim Neal does for this show, so thank you to him once again. So that has been g.l.o.w episode 5. Thank you very much once again for watching or listening. I always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?